is Tetairoa McMillan the best wide receiver in this draft class? We are talking about it, and before I get into it, Henry Chisholm with Andre Simone.
Let's do it.
We're going to hear from All-City draft expert Fran Duffy and hear what his take is on the massive receiver from Arizona.
All right, time now for Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan, a two-time All-American for the Wildcats. He was the highest-rated recruit in Arizona football history, and he paid that through in full by making sure he came out and was one of the most productive players in the history of the program. I mentioned the All-American status, but one of the best receivers in the nation over the last 2 seasons. And when I talk about his superpower at 6'4", 220 pounds, yeah, there's the size and strength aspect of it, but he's got really confident hands. He rarely put the ball on the ground. A catch rate, or a drop rate, I should say, of under 8% over the course of his career. Nope. 3-2, 6%. 3-2. So there's the size and strength aspect of it. But also, look, at 6'4", 220 pounds, what I love most about his game is he's got outstanding, confident hands. He rarely puts the ball on the ground. 2023, he was excellent. A 2% drop rate. Here this past season, it climbed up to 8, so that gave him a 6% drop rate on his career. That's a really good number. The offense was a little bit wonky this year, a new system, some new moving pieces around it, new offensive linemen in front of him. But when you're looking at the way that this receiver can win, most of his snaps, 75% of the time, he was outside the numbers. He would kick inside about a quarter of the time. But when you're looking at McMillan, he wins with size and strength. I really put a lot of value in receivers that can win through contact at every stage of the route. You're facing press coverage. Can you run through a jam? Mid-route, can DBs bump you off your path and disrupt the timing with you and the quarterback? That's not going to be the case with McMillan. And then in those contested situations, you're going to face contact in the NFL. Are you able to make those catches through contact at the catch point? That's something that McMillan has been able to show over the course of his career. Now, is he going to be a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands? No, he's never going to be some dynamo yards after catch type player. He's not going to be a consistent vertical shot guy down the field. He can get downfield, but he's not going to be that true vertical stretch element. There are other guys that have size that I think have a little bit more verticality to their game. Where he's going to win is at the catch point and being a separator. Now, that's an area where I do think he can improve. Some of the DBs that I've talked to out west and in the Big 12, they really praised his ability to kind of set up his routes and show good pacing and create separation, kind of lull guys to sleep and then break away at the last second. I do think, based off my film study, that he can get a little bit more crisp there, a little bit more purposeful with his movement to create that separation. And to me, that's what's going to dictate whether or not he becomes a top shelf, like a number 1 receiver, or if he's more of a complement in a passing game. To me, I compared him to Cortland Sutton, who's been with the Denver Broncos, coming out of SMU. He was a second-round pick. I think he's outplayed that draft slot. I think when you're looking at McMillan, he could be that. He could be T. Higgins. He could be somebody that wins primarily outside, not going to be the burner, but you know that he's going to create that separation. If he can get better and more consistent as a route runner, I think you're going to feel good about where you select him. If he doesn't, well, now you're talking, all right, well, is he going to be more of, a Tim Patrick type, a Jacoby Myers type? Is he going to be maybe a lowercase Mike Williams type? Those guys, Mike Williams got paid on the open market a couple years ago. I think when you're looking at McMillan, this is a skill set that plays in the NFL. There are just varying degrees of it. He's never going to be that explosive vertical threat. But if you can get open, play through contact, and successfully catch the football, not put it on the ground, be a reliable pass target, you're going to be that quarterback's best friend. And I do think having 25% of his snaps being in the slot, that gives him some versatility to be able to be moved around by a creative offensive coordinator. I think that there's some potential there for him to be a really successful big inside receiver in the NFL. And so multiple pathways to success for Tetairoa McMillan. I talked about some of the wide variety of outcomes there for him in terms of the type of player I see. I do think he can be a number 1 target in the league. Now it's just a matter of what level of route runner is he going to become. If he can take that next step there, I feel really good about him hitting his ceiling and being worth a first-round pick.
Reminder, you can check out more from Fran Duffy over at thednvr.com. He's got full draft guide, hundreds of prospects broken down for you, easy to read, all that sort of stuff. And we've got our own Broncos 100 where you can see the top 100 prospects for the Broncos, including Arizona's star receiver, Tetairoa McMillan, the All-American. We'll start here. Dre, is he the best wide receiver in this draft class?
Well, with the caveat of not named Travis Hunter, yes, I think so. Fran doesn't necessarily agree. Check out the draft guide. But yeah, I cannot get out of my head a convo we had on the draft pod maybe 3 months ago now, where we were talking about the ideal outside wide receiver for a Sean Payton offense. And it's like we were describing Tetairoa McMillan to a T. And the fact that now there's a little more buzz that he could drop and maybe be around for the Broncos, I think that's like a fever dream for Denver.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way I don't think that he's still on the board. If he is, though, I'm going to be thrilled. I mean, when you look at it, comes in a little over 6'4", 219 pounds. You know, people love
the 10-inch hands like Kevin Ingram, taller than Ingram coming out of college, only 15 pounds lighter at 219 pounds.
And just an absolute monster.
True specimen.
Yes. All-American 2023, third team. All-American again, first team in 2024. Just freaky numbers. Third in the FBS this year with 1,300 yards. Last year, the 1,400, 90 catches in 13 games. I mean, it's ridiculous stuff. If anything, I'm wondering why people don't have Tetairoa McMillan higher on the draft boards. Like, to me, this is one of those few blue chip draft prospects where you say, look at this guy play. He's a freak. You don't see these guys very often.
Inside outside versatility as well at that size. Super intriguing, especially for a Sean Payton offense. Look, this happens though. This happens every year. We over index speed and under index everything else, especially at the skill positions. And T-Mac's kind of a victim of that, where, like Fran said, he's never going to be a burner. But at 6'4", 220 with 10-inch hands, you don't need to be a burner.
Totally.
We always talk about speed and size are always a correlated metric. So it's in relation to each other. So yeah, when you're under 6 foot, it's great you run a 4.29. When you're over 6'4", I kind of care a lot less, you know? So I think it's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. The drop rate is really outstanding, like Fran said. And yeah, I mean, could he be Mike Thomas? I think for the Broncos, the other question you're having is he too redundant for Cortland Sutton?
Yeah, I think that is a question. To me, though, Cortland's best in the intermediate and deep portions. I think where he's at his very best, I guess to say, is down the field. You want him on the jump balls. You want him on the back shoulders. Like, let him go up and make a play. And maybe there's some of that for T-Mac. But with T-Mac, I think there's a little bit more underneath. I think there's a little bit more catch and run in the middle of the field.
I agree.
I mean, there's so many... Like, you go back to what? I believe the most recent game he played... second most recent. 9 catches, 115 yards against TCU. 10 catches, 202 against West Virginia. 8, 11, 10 for 304 against New Mexico. Like, these are high volume games. Games where the Wildcats are basically saying, we are going to T-Mac until you stop it. And that is our offense. And a lot of teams just couldn't stop it.
No one stopped.
And so I think that he has that ability to just be the focal point of the offense in a way that Cortland Sutton just doesn't quite have. To me, he's more of a, hey, let's throw one up to him and see what happens. But nobody's going to live off of that. What you live off of is Michael Thomas running slants over and over and over. Cortland Sutton has done well, I think, to fit into that role, but I don't think that's his natural position. I think that's natural for T-Mac.
I also think you see a little more juice, a little more speed once he gets to that second gear, right? Like, he is a bigger guy. It's going to be a little harder out the gate to get to like top end acceleration right off the bat. But I think when you see him on double moves, when you see him ball in his hand in those yak portions, you can see how he does take off once he's hit that second gear. And that's where I think he's intriguing. I just think big time upside, a top 5 talent in this class for me. If the rest of the NFL goes crazy and undervalues him, don't overthink it and pounce where you can.
It really is special. I mean, the way that he can just... There's so many games that you look back on. And I think that's where you think back. Like, I will never forget Jackson Smith and Jigba in that Rose Bowl because that was just a dominant performance. You say, oh my goodness, this guy is incredible. T-Mac has, 6 games where he had over 160 yards. That's dominance, repeated dominance. 304, 266, 202. Like, these are things that you just don't see very often. And when you look at his body type, those long arms, just how big he is. A lot of people say they're 6'4", but to go to the combine and measure in at 6'4" and 1/8, like that is real. That's real height. And he knows how to use it. Just such a big target. The catch radius is phenomenal. The drop rate, like you said, phenomenal. You just get the ball in his vicinity and he makes a play, and he's so smooth continuing to run after. And that's where I think he's probably getting undervalued, like you said. So I guess we'll wrap it up.
Don't overthink it.
Are the Broncos actually going to have a shot to get him?
No, it's going to be an outside shot. I think it's closer to 20% if you don't buy the buzz in the lead up, which you usually shouldn't.
True.
It's probably closer to like 10%.
Yep. I'm probably right there with you. But again, what you want to see, offensive linemen go early. Maybe a Jackson Dart sneaks up there.
At least feels more realistic than it was when the college football season first ended.
I agree. Yep. There's always those little waves. We'll see what happens. We'll see if he's a fit with the Broncos. Reminder, go to the DNVR for more of our draft writing, and also stay tuned to this YouTube channel because we've got 10 of these videos either published already or on the way, depending on when you're listening to this. So stay tuned. We're excited for the draft and hope you guys are too.